Okay, good morning and hello everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar this morning. So today's webinar is Like Your Exadata, You'll Love It in the Cloud. To begin, I'd like to introduce Viscosity. We're a solution-based consulting company that specializes in Oracle technologies. We have 4 Oracle ACE directors as part of our management team, and we've written over 18 books in the Oracle space, ranging from performance tuning to the Exadata handbook. We have various offerings all the way from software and application development in the cloud, professional services and license management to database zero downtime migration. This slide shows the 3 areas or pillars that we focus on: data, from database to data integration and analytics; applications, we run the full stack ranging from EBS, JD Edwards, PeopleSoft, as well as SaaS to PaaS integration. And then finally, and most importantly, our focus in infrastructure, everything from public cloud, private cloud, to engineered systems. And in the bottom here shows you some of our key service offerings that were shown on the previous slide as well. So on this slide, we show our Exadata command cheat sheet. You can use the link here to download the PDF. This document's a handy sheet for those wanting to learn Exadata or for those that are currently supporting it. It has everything from creating to deleting databases and with managing your Exadata. Also, previously, we did a webinar on the provisioning and post-provisioning steps of Exadata Cloud Service. It is a little more in-depth and technical, so if that's something you're looking at, you can either go to this link here, or if you want to email us and ask for it, we can send it right over to you. So during the webinar, I just want to point out, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at hello@viscosityna.com, or you can use the chat feature on your screen and we'll get back to you. I'd like to introduce our speakers now. We have Nitin Vengurlekar, Justin Nugent, and Brian Spendolini. To start with Brian Spendolini is currently the product manager of Oracle Exadata Cloud Service. Previously, he was a product manager for the Enterprise Database Cloud Service. Before his product management roles, Brian was a lead developer on Oracle's demo site shown on here. Brian has also presented many topics around Exadata Cloud, Apex, data integration, etc. He also co-authored the first Apex 5.1 book published by Oracle Press and has now released his Exadata Cloud book. Moving on to Nitin Vengurlekar. Nitin is a co-founder and CTO of Viscosity, Oracle ACE Director and vExpert. Nitin's main emphasis has been on virtualization, Oracle engineered systems, and public and private database cloud implementations. He is also the author of the books you see here, as well as written many papers on storage, database tuning, and also served as a contributor to Oracle documentation, as well as Oracle education material. And then we also have Justin Nugent here. He is also a co-founder of Viscosity. Prior to joining Viscosity, he was a former master principal consultant at Oracle, involved in many Exadata and RAC implementations across the country. His expertise spans across Oracle Exadata, RAC, Golden Gate, and much more. And so with that, I think, today during the webinar, we'll go through an Exadata Cloud overview. We'll talk through some use case scenarios and as well as the Exadata Cloud ROI. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Brian.
Great, thanks. So today we are going to talk to you about the Exadata Cloud Service and OCI, but just as a reminder, with an Exadata database machine, we do have 3 ways that you can purchase it. The first one is our traditional way, where you purchase the hardware, you put it in your data center, and you will manage the entire service from top to bottom. The next way, we'll go all the way over on the right-hand side, which is the public cloud, which we're going to be talking about today, and that's where it's a subscription-based service, and the hardware actually sits in our data center, in our cloud. Oracle manages the hardware, we patch the hardware, and make sure it's up and running, and it sits, again, as I said, in our public cloud. You just subscribe to it. And then in the middle, we have a hybrid model where we actually deliver the hardware on premises in your data center, but you're able to use all the cloud features of that within your data center. So it's not a fixed asset on your books, it's a subscription service, but the service sits in your data center rather in our public cloud. So we have 3 flexible models that you could use or that you can purchase depending on what your needs are. Now, what we're going to talk about today is the Exadata Cloud Service in OCI. Yes, thank you. Now, the Exadata Cloud Service does allow you to do some things that you can't do on-premise, and let's talk about these right now. So first, what the Exadata Cloud Service does allow you to actually use some Oracle Cloud or OCI Cloud specific options that you do enjoy on premises, such as RAC and Active Data Guard. We are the only public cloud vendor that actually is able to use and has certified versions of RAC and Active Data Guard. And that just comes with the Exadata Cloud Service. And we also allow you to create multiple databases of multiple versions. Again, that goes into our consolidation use case we'll talk about in a little bit. But if you want to create an 11.2, an 18c, a 12.2, a 12.1, all on the same Exadata platform on your Exadata Cloud Service, you're more than able to do that and mix and match these services, and using the features of the Exadata, whether it's the resource manager from the database side or IO resource manager from the Exadata side, we can completely isolate these workloads and give priority to those particular databases. Again, you get an actual Exadata in the cloud. You're not getting, some hardware that we cobbled together to basically say, oh, this is an Exadata when it's not. You get an actual Exadata hardware in the cloud, and that hardware that you get is dedicated to you. There are no people sharing it. There's no one sharing your network. There's no one sharing your CPUs. There's no one sharing your storage. It is completely dedicated to you. So you don't have to worry about noisy neighbors or anyone looking at things. Intel had those timing attacks back earlier last year, where you're actually able to run these attacks on CPUs that are shared in the cloud and see what other people are doing. You can't do that here. Not only have we mitigated that, but when it did happen, since it is dedicated hardware, you don't have to worry about someone else that shouldn't be looking at your data. Not to mention, everything that we do in the cloud is encrypted. So all the way from the database to the communication, by default, out of the box, it's encrypted. We also let you do some fast web-driven provisioning. So one-click creation of databases, one-click patching, one-click in a lot of the maintenance utilities or maintenance actions that you had to do on premises. You had to download that patch, you had to stage the patch, you had to put it somewhere, you had to run opatch and do it. We can now do with a CLI or an API. And again, what we also allow you to do is start with what you need, which is a lot different from what's on premise. I can start this service with only a certain amount of CPUs just to run my workload, and I can add and remove CPUs based upon my workload at any time with 0 downtime. Next slide, please. All right, so this shows what we have in our innovations. Again, Exadata is over 10 years old now, and here are all the great innovations we have. And what we have in the cloud and OCI are our X7s, which is our latest generation. And on the left-hand side, we have all the innovations of our database that we had throughout the years. Again, 30 years plus with the database and more on 18C. And all these features you have there that you're used to using on premises, you can use in the cloud. So we have, the multi-tenant option, the in-memory option, using RAC, setting up data guard automatically, partitioning. All those things could be used in the cloud. And then we combine them with the Exadata database machine innovations, where we offload that SQL to the storage cells, which speed up your queries. We have that fast InfiniBand fabric for low latency between the storage nodes and the Exadata compute nodes. We have terabytes, I should say, of flash in that in the backend for you to use. I think let's see, we have, I think it's like 76 terabytes with a quarter rack of flash that you're able to use and pin your tables in, and we'll let Exadata decide. So all these innovations we have come with the Exadata Cloud Service. And as I said, it is 100% dedicated to you, that hardware, when you create your service. Excellent. So here are our three shapes that we offer today. So again, we start with our quarter rack, and this is what we have in our introductory model. It starts with 2 compute nodes. You can go all the way up to 92 CPUs, which are split across 2 nodes. The total memory is 1.4 terabytes of memory. And as I said before, we have 76.8 terabytes of flash. So that flash cache will be utilized to pin, tables or that data that is used often. That'll automatically put that in the flash cache. You can tell the Exadata to put it in your flash cache to speed up those queries. And then our maximum database size we can have is a little bit over 85 terabytes of database space. And then those numbers, as you see, we go from a half rack to a full rack double, with the largest, which is our full rack, which gives you 8 compute nodes, 12 storage cells, up to 368 CPUs across all 8 nodes, and we almost approach 350 terabytes of database file space, and with over 300 terabytes of flash, again, for putting those tables, for putting that often used data into there so we can speed up our query times. So again, these are our 3 models that we do offer today, or shapes, I should say, that we offer today in the cloud. Again, all these are dedicated hardware, dedicated to you. So ingrained, the Exadata itself is highly available, but we add a little bit more on to make it even more highly available. So by default, when you use our service, our databases come up with rack. So you have that high availability between rack. The Exadata storage is triple mirrored in the back end. So if you actually lose a storage cell, or we need to take that storage cell down to patch it, we're able to do that with zero downtime. And your workloads are not affected very much by taking that storage cell down, because again, you have complete copies of your data on 2 other storage cells that you can access while we're doing that. The Exadata itself has backup power units. As I said, it's rack enabled for HA. You can deploy it in multiple regions, so you can have one Exadata in our OCI data center in Ashburn. You can deploy another one in our OCI data center in Phoenix to have that high availability or that disaster recovery across regions, or you can deploy multiple Exadatas within a region. So in our Ashburn region and our Phoenix region, we have 3 availability domains, 3 physically separate data centers that are all interconnected with very, very fast and high-speed interconnect between them. So we can put an Exadata in AD1, and then for high availability, we can put an Exadata in availability domain 2 within the same region, or as I said, for disaster recovery, we can put it in separated regions, so Phoenix and Ashburn. And again, we also have zero downtime patching. So when we patch the GI or when we patch the database, we always do it in a rolling fashion. And again, you decide when you patch your database, when you patch your GI, we give you the tools to do it. So when we do it, we'll take the first database or that first node down if you're doing a GI, or as I said, the first database down. So when you patch your databases, you decide which databases are patched. We don't patch all the databases at the same time. You pick that database, you say, hey, I'd like to put the January 2019 patch on. All right, we'll take the database down on node 1, patch it, bring it back up, make sure it's up. Then we move to the next node, take that database down, patch it, and then bring it back up. And then if it's a half rack, we continue on, and a full rack, we continue on. But if it's a quarter rack, we're done. We go for those 2 nodes. And again, we try to keep you up as much as possible with those rolling patching windows for you. Let's talk about who manages what. So Oracle will manage the Exadata infrastructure. So we manage the servers, the storage software, the networking, the firmware, the hypervisor, and we also manage patching of those and making sure those are up. If there's a disk that goes bad or a flash card with our X7s, we can actually pull them out hot and put a new one in there, and the system will rebalance. We'll notify you and say, we need to do this, when's the best time to do that, but there's zero downtime with changing something like that. If we have to change a CPU or a DIMM, you'll get notified. And again, it's always done in a rolling fashion. Since there's 2 nodes in a quarter rack or multiple nodes in a half and in a full rack, we're able to do this without affecting your workload very much. Now, granted, we will notify you and you can tell us when the best time is to do this, but we can always do it in a rolling fashion without you being down 100% complete. So again, we can do this in the back end with our storage cells. Since we triple mirrored them, we're able to do that, rolling, hot, in fact. But if it's a compute node and maybe there's a CPU that goes out, the Exadata will actually tell us far in advance, hey, there's a CPU that's going to be going out very soon. We need to notify the customer. We'll notify you. We'll ask you when the best time to do this maintenance is. You'll tell us, we'll do it, and then you'll be up and running in no time. Now, what you're going to manage as the customer is you're going to manage what we have, what we call the DOM-U, or in those VMs. So we actually virtualize the Exadata operating system and the databases, and the GI sits in there. And that allows you to basically add and remove CPUs with zero downtime. And it also separates you from a security level from the infrastructure and where your data and where your stuff is, again, fully encrypted, and only you as a customer have access into that particular area of the Exadata. Oracle does not. And that's where you're going to manage and monitor the Exadata image or the operating system, the GI, and the database. And as I said before, we give you the tooling to make this very easy, where in most cases, either a single command line command or a one-click in the UI. And then lastly, you configure and run your databases because you supply this key in the beginning, this public-private key, and that's the only way to access the VMs at the OS level. And we also have everything, as I said before, encrypted by default. So TDE is on by default. So when you create those databases, the database files themselves are encrypted. And we also have the SQLnet connection is also encrypted out of the box as well. So we're secure from the top to the bottom, and then we'll handle all the patching below it. You just need to handle patching that database and patching the grid infrastructure within the that space, that DOM-U, where you're going to live and do your Exadata work, or your database workloads are going to live. All right, so next is the use cases. And I believe I'm handing this off, or am I going to do the use cases? I can't remember who's doing use cases here.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, we'll pass it over to Nitin.
All right, great.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. As Callie mentioned nicely in the intro, Viscosity is a solutions integrator and a solutions enabler, and we currently support and have deployed countless number of on-premise Exadata Cloud Service, as well as Exadata at customer. So all three different scenarios, consumption models that Brian mentioned, we currently support and have deployed countless number of these over the past year and a half. So the next set of slides describes the Exadata Cloud use case scenarios, as well as some of the solutions that we've provided for our customers. In this slide, we talk about the Exadata Cloud key use cases. We have Exadata Cloud Service is used for mission-critical production databases, database consolidation, OLTP workloads, in-memory analytics, as well as DR. And I'm going to cover each one of these different scenarios and how we've deployed that for our customers in the next set of slides. But what's interesting here is that there's, as Brian mentioned, some of the Exadata Smart technology, the offload technology that's incorporated in Exadata, whether it's on-premise or in the cloud, that maps to each one of these key use cases. For example, smart consolidation technology allows you to segregate or provide quality of service with respect to CPU, I/O, and network QoS settings for tier 1 databases. So for example, if you've consolidated 15 to 20 databases on your Exadata Cloud Service, you can use IRM, DBRM QoS settings to enable tier 1 databases to be have better quality of service than the other databases. So there's certain Exadata smart technology that's backed for each one. Also, for example, smart OLTP allows extremely fast messaging and transaction management. For smart analytics, Exadata Cloud allows you to parallelize and offload queries to storage, so making a CPU much more efficient on the compute side. Next slide. So in this slide, we're going to talk about the three different use case scenarios that we as Viscosity see in three primary areas where we've been focusing on working with our customers to get them to Exadata Cloud Service. First and foremost is the on-premise Exadata. These are customers who already have an Exadata on-premise, they love their Exadata, and they still want to enjoy the benefits of an Exadata in the cloud. So what we're doing with these customers are moving their Exadata, migrating their older X2, X3, X4, and even their X5 systems to Exadata X7 in the cloud. And what this effectively does is reduces their license footprint, as well as still maintaining performance SLAs. They get to leverage all the faster processors and potentially, like I said, reduce OCPU footprint, and even get some of the latest technologies such as 18C, some of the better flash technology as well that Brian mentioned. A second use case scenario is migrating Oracle workloads to Exadata CS. And this is really what we're seeing here in this use case scenario is customers who don't have an Exadata on-premise, but they realize that Exadata Cloud is a great platform in the cloud for consolidation. So what we're doing here is we're consolidating disparate Oracle systems that are probably running on Linux, AIX, Superdome systems, older technology, and moving that whole database consolidation workload to Exadata Cloud. And with more flash, hybrid column compression, and overall storage footprint, larger overall storage footprint, this really is a catapult and catalyst for a higher consolidation density. And the last use case scenario is extending your current data center. And what we mean by here is we currently support a couple of Exadata customers on premise that are, because for lack of resources, they're running production and non-prod on the same Exadata cluster. For example, with the quarter rack or half rack, they're running one node that's dedicated to non-prod and the other node's dedicated to prod. Although that's not the best situation and best configuration, so what we're encouraging our customers in that scenario to do is help move that test dev QA non-prod environment to Exadata Cloud, as well as also to get the best economies of scale, also move DR into Exadata Cloud. And so effectively what we've done for DR is a platform for all physical standbys for on-premise systems. So the key here is we're able to reduce OCPU footprint for DR and test dev configurations and burst on demand on switchover. And a good example here, what we've done of last migration is that once we started moving workloads from on-premise to cloud, we had initially set the OCPU count to be fairly reasonable, appropriate. And as the more and more consolidation we did, we dialed up the OCPUs on demand as we needed it. So we only pay for the CPU footprint, what you need. Next slide. So the next set of slides, I'm going to cover specific use case scenarios, customer deployment use case scenarios. And the first one is a large mortgage company based in New Jersey. So their on-premise challenge was really supporting, they had multiple rack clusters with EMC 4K storage in the backend. Some of these rack clusters were running on VMware, some were on bare metal. But the issue here was that their performance is really a bottleneck because the backend storage is all managed by EMC 4K VMAX. They had competing resources with SharePoint, Exchange, all various types of workloads were competing against the same footprint. So what they really needed is a stable performance configuration. The other two requirements was that they needed a license optimized elastic resource, a cost model for DR. Like I mentioned in the previous slide, they only wanted to set up the CPUs, OCPUs, for how much they use and consume and dial up as they needed. And finally, on the last one, they wanted to, they had a data domain backup appliance, which we're currently using on premise, and that was becoming outdated and you needed to replace it. And they didn't want to replace it with the same technology, so they were looking for a cloud-based solution that can offload some of their backups to offsite systems. So what we did as Viscosity, we came in and worked through their requirements, their demands, and this is the solution that we provided. We consolidated all their on-premise rack clusters into a single half-rack Exadata Cloud X7 in Ashburn with DR and Phoenix. With that consolidation, with removing older hardware and reducing your overall CPU footprint, they saw an overall cost savings of about 30%. And this, Justin will be talking a little bit more about how we got to that point. But a lot of this was achieved and attained through higher consolidation density. And with the faster Exadata Cloud Intel processors, it really improved overall responsiveness. So not only did we get a better consolidation footprint, but we also got 35% performance improvement over and above the consolidation density. So in addition, we also provided elastic economical cost model, enabling the scale up capacity on demand, as I mentioned before, for DR, and pay for only what you need. Next slide. So this next use case, deployment use case scenario, is a hospital supply chain customer. And interestingly enough, this is where they this customer already had a couple of Exadatas on premise, but they had a hard time retaining and maintaining skill sets to support the Exadata systems on premise. And they really wanted to get to a newer platform at a better cost model. So what we did is we migrated their two on-premise Exadata X3 and X4 quarter racks to a single quarter rack Exadata X7 in the cloud. And we did quite a bit of analysis on their capacity planning, performance analysis, and we basically turned our analysis into the right sizing number of OCPUs they needed in the cloud. So this was not only an Exadata migration, but this was a wholesale migration of the entire PeopleSoft and other workloads into OCI as well as Exadata. So we moved not only the Exadata workloads, but we moved their web servers, app servers, load balancers entirely into OCI. And so by virtue of doing this, after a couple of months, we went back and did analysis on their performance. We found out that their PeopleSoft and Hyperion batch processing actually improved 30% and 17% respectively. And their BI reports performance improved by 20%. The PeopleSoft Envision reports, for those of you guys who may or may not know, Envision is an extremely I/O intensive workload. And on-premise, that workload was actually degrading month after month. And by moving that to Exadata Cloud, we're actually able to improve that performance by 15%. And one thing that's not actually listed on here, this customer actually couldn't get their backups working correctly. Some of the backups finish in hours to sometimes never finish. By virtue of moving this to Exadata Cloud with the automation in place, we got the backups to run in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it completely offloaded to object store. Next slide. Yeah, and the final use case scenario is this healthcare provider, which was recently done. This customer was previously on AWS, EC2, and EBS block storage, and they were running an Oracle OLTP workload. The performance on this was always inconsistent, so it actually was consistently inconsistent. So what they wanted is a stable platform from a performance perspective, and they also wanted a long-term plan for database consolidation and DR. What's not listed here is that they also wanted to get to an 18C footprint for their databases, which currently wasn't supported on Amazon AWS. So what we did as part of the solution, we migrated their large AWS EC2 EBS system, which is running 12.1 database, to Exadata Cloud Quarter Rack with Oracle 18C and multi-tenant for consolidation. And by doing this, we immediately saw performance improvement on their flagship application. Multi-tenant enabled improved consolidation. As you can see, the common theme for each one of these scenarios that I mentioned is consolidation and lower CPU footprint and overall licensing improvement. And the last bullet, although it's not specific to Exadata, we use PDB level remote clone and replication with snapshots, which provided a really improved agile-based UAT dev test build-outs, whereas before their snapshot technology that they used in AWS just wasn't quite working, and their refresh rates were falling behind. So by virtue of using PDB level remote clone and replication, which are features of 18C, that really improved their build-outs over test and dev. So these three use case scenarios I mentioned before, if you guys have, if anybody who is listening has any questions about how we did this migration, what was our background, how we did the capacity planning, what was the solution in detail, please reach out to us. I have no problems talking to you guys offline and go over the scenarios. And with that, I'm going to say with Justin, but I will talk about some of the consumption models for Exadata Cloud. So there's, as Brian mentioned, there's two primary ways to consume Exadata in the cloud. One is what we call license model. So Oracle Database Enterprise Extreme Edition Performance included is what we call a license included model. And with this option, all Oracle Database Enterprise Edition options, enterprise management packs are all included, as well as the Oracle Exadata software is also included. So this is basically what we define as the license included model. And this is really a best use case scenario for customers who want to use all the Oracle database options available on that platform. The second model for consumption is bring your own license, or BYL entitlements. With this includes Database Enterprise Edition and any preferred database option currently used on premise. So if you already have a pre-existing EE license, any options, you can transfer those license options to Exadata Cloud. So there's some license entitlements that are automatically given to you just by virtue of going to Exadata Cloud, and that includes TDE, data masking, subnetting, diagnostic pack, tuning pack, as well as RAT. And keep in mind, with this model, one Oracle processor on-premise maps to 2 OCPUs. And again, just like the one with license included model, all Exadata software features are also included. All the smart technologies are included by default. And this, for BOL, is really best for customers who want to leverage their on-premise investment in Oracle and primarily want to shift that workload to Exadata Cloud. And with that, I am going to shift this over to Justin to talk about ROI analysis and some of the things we've done with our customers.
Great, thank you, Nin. So as Nin mentioned earlier, there's 2 models of licensing. So the first one I'm going to show is really about the license included. I mean, all the software included with the cloud, and how does it compare to on-premise. And on-premise is mostly customer will require to acquire brand new hardware. So the 2 scenarios I will put in here for you is the first one is really about, if you're looking for deploy a brand new Exadata, and what would the cost would be, both from the monthly cost and to the yearly investment, and what kind of software included with that. So let's take a look at on the on-premise side. If I have to acquire, because I need to acquire a brand new Exadata, quarter rack X7, and the minimum they would need is about 14 CPU licenses, equate to about 28 CPU they can use on Exadata as a whole. That's a minimum requirement from Oracle. And the software they will need to run Exadata, as you can see from the bottom of the right-hand side, is that the software that they will need to use or license to run Exadata properly. And then also the software of the management pack as well. So based on that, and I kind of break it up to 2 different cost models. And the first one is basically based on the monthly cost. What would that be? So you're looking at from the Exadata itself is about $17,000 a month, and strictly just for 36 months of acquire a brand new quarter rack Exadata that will be hosted in your data centers or colos or whatnot. And then the associated software cost that based on list price according to the software that we have listed below, based on 36 months with no financing fees on that is about $89,000. And then the additional to the cost of the Oracle database software, that is Exadata storage software as well, which turned out to be about $16,000 per month for the 36 months that will require to run this environment. And with the total cost will be $123,000 total. So for a customer, one of these scenarios that they went to, consider running this Exadata on-premise, and they are looking at what the investment cost total for them to run this. And secondly, that I haven't added to these numbers is the colo cost. The assumption is they already have their own data centers. They just have to provision the quarter rack inside the data center. Only have to pay for the electricity and the cooling costs, which is probably already included with some of the data center costs. If you have to take this to a colo, with price range between $5,000 and $10,000 easily per month, just on top of this number. So as you can see that the cost of the on-premise Exadata will be significantly higher. So let's take a look at the left-hand side, and I want to look at the bottom part of the software included, and what the software that comes with the Exadata on Oracle OCI is really pretty much everything that Oracle provides for you. You look at some software that from a database, we have active data guard all the way down to real application testing, even timestamp as well, even database vault and label security and multi-tenancy. So all that included. So you can see that the software is a lot more than what's available if you have to purchase on-premise. Then from the management packs, and I know there's certain things that included that Nick mentioned earlier, but also that's quite a bit of option that comes with that as well. Okay, so you can see the significant amount of software included with the Oracle Exadata Cloud. And let's take a look at the cost real quick. So I'm just basically looking at 28 OCPU, which is equivalent to similar what the quarter rack minimum configuration would be. Then you take a look at this number. So the cost is about $41,000. You can see this is significant cost less, then you don't have to worry about any of the additional costs associated to run the on-premise. So that's where the customer, that one of the examples that Nitin spoke earlier, is looking at the cost model. Definitely the OCI cost will be significant than the brand new Exadata on-premise. Okay, Next slide, please. The next one is really the cost is about what happens. You have the Oracle software ready. If I have Oracle software running on my current environment, and I'm looking for a cost differentiation between the two, how much cost would it be for me to run it by buying a brand new Exadata, and also looking at leverage existing software licenses, and how much it costs for me to support that. Then compare that to the Oracle Cloud version, and Oracle Cloud version is basically will be reduced because of the fact that they let you bring your own software license as well. So let's take the two models real quick. So on the on-premise side, as you can see on the left-hand side, right-hand side, you can see the cost will be about $52,000. So what does it mean? Well, I already have the Oracle software cost. Well, you still have to run or pay Oracle the annual support for your software licenses. And the software is based on the bottom right-hand corner. You can see that those are the software, the minimum that we recommend people to use. So annually, they have to pay pretty much, X amount of dollars to Oracle support costs. But you're looking at a cost from a monthly perspective, it's about $35,000 for the monthly support of the Oracle software. And then on top of that, you have to pay the cost for the extra hardware as well, which is about $17,000. I did not include any of the additional software that you may have, and also the additional Exadata support, such as patching, monitor. Even though Oracle Platinum support does provide you patching, but it's very strict requirement. If you miss 1 or 2 patches, then Oracle Platinum support will not patch the system for you. You have to do it yourself. So I did not consider that in there. I assume that everybody followed the standard Oracle patching guideline, patch every quarter, which we know that's not possible sometimes. So the cost is about $52,000 total. And let's take a look on the other side, on the left-hand side, what the cost would be if I bring my own software models, and also I set to pay Oracle support on that. So if you look at across the board, the investment cost is about $56,000, because you have to pay Oracle about $21,000 per month to bring your own license to Oracle. And then on top of that, you still have to pay your software support. So based on that, it's about $56,000. So you have a lot more options to use, but if you compare that to the previous model where you use Oracle license completely, and all the software license come under $46,000, so it's significantly cheaper than actually bring your own licenses. And the only time you bring your own licenses is where you have significant amount of footprints that you may see the benefits from that. But overall, I think using Oracle OCI and be able to leverage the software on there will give you significant cost savings as a whole. Okay. I will turn you back to Carly.
Thank you all. Real quick, before I go through a summary, I believe we had a question for Nitin. It's on backup. The question is, RMAN does not seem to be a good solution for large database and many enterprise uses for snapshot BCB backup. I'm curious to see the timelines for backup as a service in cloud for large databases.
Sure. Whoever was asking that question, please reach out to me. This seems like more of a dialogue question that I can't necessarily answer in chat, but I'd love to have a dialogue with you to discuss BCB. Actually, if you guys remember, I wrote the BCB paper about 10, 12 years ago when I was at Oracle. So we've done some cost analysis, or actually performance analysis, difference between split mirror, time planner type of backups versus backups in the cloud. So please feel free to reach out to me and we can go through that.
Awesome. Yeah, so the email you can email that question to is hello@viscosityna.com. You don't even actually have to ask the question again if you just want to let us know that you have the question on that. I'll get you set up with Nitin, and you guys can talk through that if that works for you. I believe that was the only unanswered question we had here. So I'll go ahead and go through a summary, but if you have any questions in the meantime, go ahead and throw them in the chat. So basically, the kind of summary of the webinar today, all the database features they work exactly the same and are available both on-premise and on Exadata Cloud Service. As Justin just mentioned, Exadata Cloud Service is very cost effective. You can scale up and down as you need. It is better with BYOL. And then Nitin actually went through, we upped it to 3 customer use case scenarios for migrating to Exadata Cloud Service. For existing Exadata customers, you can upgrade to the latest stack, DR, or test dev in the cloud. Or if you don't have Exadata on-premise, customers are already migrating to XCS to reduce support costs and consolidation. So Viscosity is already assisting many customers transition and consolidate onto Exadata Cloud Service. So if you have any questions or want to look into that, let us help you. We're definitely open to hearing any questions you may have. So thank you all again for joining. I think we are getting you guys out of here pretty quick. We'll give you some minutes out of your day back. I will be able to send you the slides if you request them. Again, the email is hello@viscosityna.com. And then on behalf of Viscosity and our presenters, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.